Alright, that's up. That's up. That's up. Alright, I think we are ready to go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to more... Ooh. Sorry, I'm looking at some. Welcome back to more Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. I ended the last stream a bit abruptly because my computer basically was telling me, hey, you can't stream anymore because internet... The internet sucked for some reason. Though I don't know why, considering the connection was perfectly fine, but... We're probably going to be finishing the final trial today of the first game. And then, depending on how long that takes, I might start up the first trial of the second game in this game package. So, let's go ahead and continue. Let's finish up the Adventure of the Unspeakable Story. We have now got the music box. Or at least I think that's what they said, right? History. Yeah. It's a music box that...
Hold it! You all let us have a rabbit and pork here, Governor. We got things to say.
I beg your pardon. Who do you think you are?
The name's Last Skulkin. Occupation is professional baddie.
That Draco Skulkin. We ain't baddies enough to sell our motherland.
That's right. We're what they call the Three Skulkin Brothers. Bad timing, fellas. Very bad timing.
Witness testimony. Graydon's counter.
I'm your communications officer. Couldn't possibly steal confidential government information. Besides, the sounds produced by that music box aren't even Morse code. It was some low-class brickmaker negotiating with McGilded anyway, was it not? I have no relation to that man. Look, all we done is break to the gap the other night, and like what he told us to do.
If we know there was dodgy government secrets involved, we wouldn't have touched it.
Why does it feel like they're all three fighting now? Yeah.
Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
What Mr. do, Governor? What's up?
Do I take it that you now admit to the crime? That online question, you did indeed gain entry to the premises illegally? And moreover, you did so as a party of three in collaboration with Mr. Graydon here?
We did, God, we did!
Quieten down, please. What do you say to that, Mr. Graydon?
I have no idea what these two ruffians are referring to. You little rotter, you don't mix up in all this monkey business. You never said nothing about no government secrets. It was supposed to be a straight-up job.
And what about the geezer shop it was, eh? Poor bloke didn't have to die, did he?
Nice to know who your friends are. Helps me.
Whatever these men say, I deny the accusations.
Indeed. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this little music box to become so significant in the proceedings. However, as it has, I will admit it into the court record as evidence.
Strange music box only appears to be able to play a single tone. It was deposited at Windibanks 2 days before the Black Overcoat. Well, before we continue too much, I want to check out that music box. Well, that's the wrong button. Whoops. Alright, let's check out that music box. Now we got Mr. McGilded's disc in it. See how the four McGilded disc sits in the music box the man deposited at Windibanks? It couldn't be a more perfect fit.
There's no question that this disc was designed to be played in this music box.
Yet despite that, the sounds it produces are neither musical nor do they appear to have any meaning.
It just doesn't make any sense. I wonder if perhaps there's more to this music box than meets the eye. Maybe we haven't discovered all its secrets yet.
Jewel? What's this? Is this how you open it? Oh.
What is it, Bruno?
I just noticed something about this music box. Looks like the bottom of it opens up as well.
Oh. You're right. Well, come on then. What are you waiting for? Let's open it.
Alright then, here goes.
Oh. Look at that. There's another movement on the underside.
Strange, so both sides play music. Why? So, does that mean you can set another disc to play back on this side?
Yes, I think so. And it looks like the two movements are linked together.
So if it's Morse code, then two discs need to be present in order to play it. They're linked?
So if you have two discs, they would both play back at the same time.
Exactly. But what this presents is a problem of where's this other disc? Who'd have thought there would be a second movement on the underside of the box?
And this movement is like the other one. The comb's teeth are all the same length.
So this movement also only produces a single tone, like the other one.
Yes, it must do. Except that the length of the teeth on the two combs isn't the same.
So it would produce... So all of these would produce the same sound, but it would be different from the opposite side.
So a single tone produced by this movement will be different to the single tone we've already heard.
What?
Basically, each movement can only produce a single tone. Note.
But the notes they produce are different. A music box that can only play two tones. Well, that definitely sounds like it's got a meaning to it. Doesn't look like there's anything else special about it, per se. Anyways, we're looking at, oh well, I'll figure it out. So this newspaper article, this newspaper headline, so is this newspaper headline accurate? I'm sorry, I can't read, sir. Government communications are being intercepted.
How could I possibly know?
What do you mean by that? Any important government and communications are handled by high-level officers, my specialists. General members of the staff in the station where I work would never be entrusted with sensitive information. Oh no, stop, I must say... Oh no, stop. Must say something, stop. Ah, yes. Turn number 5.
We regular communication station officers are as lowly as you're being led to believe. A team of us are responsible for setting up and testing the telegraphs used by the Ministry. And Mr. Graydon is the team leader.
That's fascinating. And helpful. Thank you, ma'am.
Graydon is highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idle. Stop.
So you got access to the equipment used for the confidential communications, Mr. Graydon?
Well, what of it? The transmissions are always made behind closed doors so they can't be heard. And in any case, all messages are sent in cipher. Normal employees couldn't possibly understand them. Oh no, stop. Must say something. Stop. Mr. Graydon regularly attends meetings with Ministry technicians and the Ministry communications team. He assists them in ensuring that there are no errors in important international communications. And he's received the top prize at the cipher cracking convention 5 years in a row now.
That's fascinating. Again. Interesting.
Graydon is highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idle. Stop. Well, your idol will appreciate it if you keep your mouth shut.
She should really pick her idols more carefully.
I tell you, this lawyer's accusations are completely unfounded.
It's not even Morse code.
Hold it! They're not? To anyone with a brain, that would be blatantly apparent on listening to that music box for even a few seconds.
Of course, of course. Surely it can't be that my learned friend is unfamiliar with Morse code. Ouch. He looks genuinely shocked at my ignorance.
I would be more than happy to demonstrate the basics for you, sir.
A lesson here in court?
Morse code is a continuous series of two distinct tones.
Tones, you say? Only Morse code that I know is like... well, actually, I don't even remember. It goes like... Beep, 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 Like, isn't that SOS? I don't know. I think that's it.
Yes, a short dot and a long dash. By combining those in different ways, you can track letters.
I see.
For example, this is A.
Okay.
This is B. When you listen to the sound produced by this music box, you only hear one tone, don't you?
But it sounds so similar.
The rhythm of it is the same in everything.
But there's no discernible meaning to this apparently random sequence of sounds. So your assertion is fundamentally flawed. This is not Morse code.
No!
Really?
You shouldn't be so surprised. What did I tell you? That music box is nothing but a worthless piece of scrap. Perhaps you might consider studying your subject matter before casting aspersions in the future.
Stop. Nothing to say but stop.
Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it?
Hers?
I mean, if the government secrets were somehow being leaked using the music box, so many other things would fall into place so nicely.
Could there still be something I haven't considered? Would it really be impossible to use this music box somehow to play back Morse code? It would be possible, considering we now know that it's two-sided. So let me show that to the court, hopefully, is that what they're gonna say. Like, I hope they're asking, like, hey, you can show this to court. There's still every possibility that the music box was instrumental in the leaking of government secrets. That's the belief of the defense, at least.
Objection!
Does it please you in some way, my Nipponese friend, to repeat the same line of argument ad infinitum? It's already been established that to be Morse code, two tones are required. Dots and dashes. Yes, I'm well aware of that.
Then what?
Well, it would appear the defense has a hypothesis to put forward. You had better present your idea at once, counsel. How do you propose that this music box, which appears to produce only a single tone, could be used to decipher secret messages into Morse code?
Oh, open it up.
Got it!
Bingo.
Good gracious! What am I looking at here? Another movement on the underside of the music box.
What? It appears, my lord, that the two movements are linked together. In other words, you can put two discs in this music box, and the sounds of both will play back at the same time.
Good heavens!
As the court has heard, Morse code comprises of two tones, a short dot and a long dash. With a second disc in place, this music box could be used to generate Morse code and convey a message. Objection?
This is beyond a joke.
I'm sorry?
This poor excuse for a lawyer has absolutely no evidence to support his claim.
Though, of course, if my learned friend were able to present the court with the second disc, that would be another matter. Well, I can't at the moment. And may I remind the court that, as the witness has pointed out, he was not the one in the omnibus with McGill 2 months ago, striking a deal over the discs.
Indeed, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker.
Exactly. I know nothing whatsoever to do with it.
So I have to find a way to connect him to the omnibus, is what I'm hearing.
Though it has holes, I must admit the argument presented by the defense has much promise. I believe the cross-examination should continue.
The link between Graydon and the victim of the omnibus case must be there somewhere, but I haven't found it yet.
Oh dear, looks like you need to give your argument more strength, Bruno.
Your testimony, if you will.
Is there any way I can connect you to that? Do I have anything that can connect? Like, let me look at this. Savern, Mason Milverton, brickmaker, domicile, prosecution, conviction, acquittal. Mason Milverton. What's your last name again? Why can't I look at your name again? Sir. I want to look at character names. Hold on. If I go here, press this. There we go. Graydon. Okay. So, at the very least, I can't prove it with last names. Well, there must be something else I can find off the rest of this testimony. What if nah, I think it said AG on his cane. I was gonna say, I remember we had a whole deal with his cane.
Hold it!
So 2 months ago in that omnibus, McGilda killed the brickmaker and stole the disc.
Mr. Mason was a single man with almost nothing to his name. It seems he lived in an arson quarter some years ago, but people there remembered little about him.
It doesn't make much sense, though, does it? How would a humble brickmaker come to acquire secret government information? How indeed. There must have been somebody else involved behind the scenes in all of this. Somebody who acquired the disc and gave it to Mr. Mason. In order to take it to the meeting with Mr. McGilda and negotiate a deal. Dear me. You may have it in for me, sir, but I assure you, I have far more class than that. An old brickmaker from an arson quarter and this well-to-do communications officer. If only I could find some evidence to link the two of them together.
We got nothing more to add on that note. Let's return to the witness testimony.
Break into the gap. Hold it!
Like Mr. Graydon told you to, you mean?
That's right, that's it, yeah. What else, eh? Illy thought he was just popping over for another after them all them years, but the Ron had a dodgy job for us. Yeah, Ash.
Ash, let me stop you there, Mr. Skulkin. After all them years, you say. Oh yeah, do you know? Do you mean to tell me that Mr. Graydon is an acquaintance of yours?
We're sociable kind of baddies, you know? Sure, let's say Graydon's an old China.
Ringo. Excuse me. Is something wrong, Mr. Skulkin?
Eh?
No, the other Mr. Skulkin.
What? Who, me?
When your brother was testifying just now, he said something that seemed to cause you to react.
Oh, I was just remembering the old days, that's all. We used to have a right old laugh together way back to when?
Together with Mr. Graydon, you mean?
Yeah, with Ash, I mean. You look at him now and his fancy whistle and flute, and you weren't having to believe it. But when he was younger, he was from the poor part of town, just like us.
Is that so?
But he was always a leery one. He had the brains, he had the savvy. Always coming up with smart ideas like what would never have gone through our heads.
Oh, blimey, ain't that the truth? Remember Milverton and Skulkin's milk run?
Milverton?
That was a crocker, eh? Corker, eh? Save it for until after the trial. Your reminiscing has no place in this courtroom. And neither does your fruit. Oi, he's asked us a question, and we will answer it.
Yeah, we ain't done nothing wrong. Nevertheless, the court is not prepared to accompany you on your trip down memory lane. Counsel, can we turn our attention back to the testimony, please?
I don't know. Could that sentimental story be relevant somehow? Add it. My lord.
Yes, Counsel.
The brother's last sentimental statement could hold vital information relating to this case.
Very well, Counsel. I will permit the brothers to supplement their testimony with that detail. Briefly, I hasten to add.
Say no more. The Skulkin's never skulking. Hold it!
I'm sure I'm going to regret asking, but what exactly was that? Some kind of business?
Just a little scheme we got going on back when we was youngsters. Bit of fun, really.
Delivering fresh milk to the locals. That's what it was all about.
That sounds alarmingly legitimate. There must be a catch. I suppose since we're here, I should ask him to elaborate, but on what? Business name. Tell me more about that name. So this business was just a bit of fun, you say? And it was just yourselves and Mr. Graydon involved.
Yeah, that's it.
Milverton and Skulkin's Milk Run, was it?
Yeah, that's it.
And where did the Milverton part come from?
Alright. I thought a clever clock like you would have worked it out, that one. That is...
Enough of this. How much longer are we expected to listen to this drivel? I don't... Let me guess. You don't accept anything these two witnesses are saying. Tell me, why is it that it was only at the mention of the name Milverton that you decided to interject?
Because well...
They weren't happy as that one came from.
Yeah, his old man was struggling for money so much his wife walked out on him.
She took the name Graydon then. See?
That will always be Milverton to us.
Bingo. Milverton. So that used to be your surname, did it?
Of course not. This is all buncombe. I've been a Graydon since I was born. Do you really think you can rely on the testimony of these two thieves,
You're a communications officer attached to the civil service.
As such, your personal details would have been thoroughly checked at the time of your appointment.
It would be a very simple matter indeed to upon you those records, Mr. Graydon. Well, it would appear that Mr. and Mrs. Skulkin's testimony has been reliable, for once. You were born Ashley Milverton, then. Is that correct?
Very well. Yes.
So Ashley Graydon was once Ashley Milverton. That information could change things, and could turn out to be extremely important. He's a once Milverton. That's just what I needed. All of a sudden, we seem to be up our necks in a serious matter of national security. Although, all this talk about interception of secret government message is still just conjecture at this stage.
It would explain a number of things, though, wouldn't it? The negotiation Ginny overheard on the omnibus 2 months ago, the break-in at Windibanks. But the trouble is, it wasn't Mr. Graydon in the omnibus with McGilded.
No, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker who was horribly murdered.
If only there was some link between the two men somehow.
I know. Mr. Graydon's testimony seems to be as watertight as ever. I wonder if the key to us making headway with the cross-examination here could be those two brothers. Well, I can't present names, but you've got no relation. Hold on. So, 2 months ago in that omnibus, McGilded killed the brickmaker and stole the disc.
Mr. Mason was a single man with almost nothing to his name.
It seemed he lived in an artisan quarter some years ago, but people there remember little about him. This doesn't make much sense, though, does it? How would a humble brickmaker come to acquire secret government information? How indeed. There must have been somebody else involved behind the scenes in all of this. Somebody who acquired the disc and gave it to Mr. Mason, in order to take it to the meeting with McGilded and negotiate a deal. Dear me. You may have it in for me, sir, but I assure you, I'm far more class than that. An old brickmaker from an artisan quarter and this well-to-do communications officer. Wait, what? Oh, you know what I probably gotta present? I know what I gotta present.
Objection!
Bingo. Mr. Ashley Milverton. Tell me, why did you try to hide your former name from the court?
Because I haven't gone by that name for years. It means nothing to me.
No, I don't think that's the real explanation at all. The truth is, you had a reason to hide that name.
Explain yourself, please, counsel.
I have here the notes from the omnibus case, my lord. And, as we all know, the victim, the man who we now understand to have been negotiating with McGilded.
Yes, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker.
That's right. Only Mason wasn't his surname at all. It was his given name. His full name was Mason Milverton.
Milverton? Do you mean to say... Saints alive!
Mr. Ashley Milverton, is it not the case that the brickmaker, Mr. Mason Milverton, was your father?
I don't...
As I believe I mentioned earlier, your family history will have been thoroughly checked when you join the civil service. And it really would take no time at all for the court to subpoena those records.
The truth is, you have been illegally acquiring highly confidential government information and selling it on to McGilded in collaboration with your father. The new facts and evidence unveiled by the cross-examination of this witness all come together to reveal the truth.
The truth, you say?
That you collaborated with your father, Mr. Mason Milverton, in illegal dealings with Magnus McGilded.
By dint of this music box, you mean, counsel?
Yes, stealing information being sent in secret government communications and selling it on to McGilded. Mr. Graydon concocted this elaborate scheme using 2 music box discs to encode the information, as presumably a safety measure against the information falling into the wrong hands.
And a very effective one. I shouldn't have given the scheme any credence whatsoever. But the deal with McGilded went sour, and the brickmaker met his end.
Yeah, but before he was arrested, McGilded managed to temporarily dispose of the stolen disc at the pawnbroker. Then, having learned of the situation, you appeared at Windibanks 2 days ago. In an attempt to recover the 2 articles McGilded had placed in pawn there.
But that attempt failed.
One of the discs was seized by the police, and the other you never found. So that same night, you enlisted the help of the Skulkin brothers and broke into the pawnbrokery. This time, determined to recover the second disc.
Are you suggesting that the second disc was inside the music box? We never knew nothing about that.
On the night that Mr. Windibank was killed. The intruder to the pawnbrokery touched one item and one item alone, the music box.
I was rather ingeniously demonstrated using the 2 prints from the security camera, indeed.
So, the question that naturally begs answering is this. Why was only that one article disturbed? The answer is obvious, because it contained the second disc, which the intruder was desperate to retrieve. Since, if it were to fall into the hands of the police, it would be proof of his high treason. Well, Mr. Graydon, do you deny that all of this actually began on that fateful night 2 months ago?
I refuse to accept any of this nonsense!
I just noticed you're bloody. Sir, there appears to be blood seeping through the sleeve of your jacket. What? 2 nights ago, we know that 3 shots were fired at the scene of the crime in Windibank's pawnbrokery. One took the life of the pawnbroker himself. One struck the pouch around Mr. Shum's waist. And the final bullet struck the calendar on the wall of the shop, having first pierced the arm of one of the intruders. Mr. Graydon, that wound on your arm that you seem to be trying to hide, it's a bullet wound, isn't it?
He's got you now, me old China.
Time to call it quits and croak, I reckon.
don't acknowledge my presence there under any circumstances whatsoever. Those were my terms, remember? And I paid you handsomely to comply. Clearly, I was a fool to think I could trust some common backslum thieves.
Interesting.
Fine. I admit it. I was there in Windobanks that night. I paid this pair 10 guineas to accompany me. And as you've noticed, I sustained an injury in the course of my adventures. But that is all. I admit to nothing more. Stealing government secrets, negotiating with Mr. McGillid. As God is my witness, I'm sure I recall nothing of the sort.
He's not going to go down without a fight. Not until I can show hard evidence, I suppose. Nevertheless, the defense has now established a crucial fact.
Which is?
Well, we know that one bullet was fired from each of the two firearms we have in the evidence. The bullet from the Skulkin Brothers' gun hit the pouch around Mr. Shum's waist. And the bullet from Mr. Windobank's gun clearly must have been the one that caught Mr. Graydon on the arm.
Indeed it must. We can rule out the possibility that the man shot himself.
And that leads us to only one conclusion. Mr. Windobank was shot by a third gun, which can only have been fired by the third intruder.
Goodness.
That's right, Mr. Graydon. The only person who could possibly have shot Mr. Windobank that night is you.
Hold it!
Hmm?
You little upstart! You made a grave mistake when you summoned me here.
What? What's that supposed to mean?
Yes, as you rightly say, I was there at the pawnbrokers. I did my best to hide that fact, naturally. I had no intentions of ruining the distinguished career I built for myself at the communication station. But did the thought never cross your mind? Did you never consider the possibility?
What do you mean? What thought? What possibility?
The possibility that if I was there at the scene, I may have witnessed the crucial moments. You see, this makes me a key witness in this case, and I have my hands firmly around the neck of your client.
What? Are you suggesting...
I saw it all. I saw the very moment that pickpocket girl pointed the gun at that poor defenseless pawnbroker and shot him. You wow!
Order! 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 Well, it would seem we are finally entering the last act of this theatrical trial. Mr. Graydon.
Yes. I trust you are fully aware of the implications here. If it is shown that your claim is false, you will have incriminated yourself as the killer. Oh, I understand fully.
Then I ask you to give your formal testimony once more. You will explain to the court precisely what you saw at the moment the defendant allegedly shot the victim.
Nothing would give me greater pleasure.
He's gonna try and spin this his way now, isn't he? The moment of the shooting.
While those ruffians were jostling with the broker, I was still near the entrance of the shop. When the Windobank threw Nash over the counter, I felt a sharp pain in my arm. I pursued the man, but he shot himself in the storeroom. I could see through the peephole in the door, though. The accused in a black coat shot the man in the back as he was trying to flee safety. I saw the blood splatter all over that wretched girl. Then she tossed the gun out of the peephole, so I picked it up and made my escape.
Good gracious. This is quite extraordinary testimony. You claim, sir, under oath, to have clearly seen the defendant pulling the trigger. Order! Order! Order!
it wasn't my intention to testify in this way. But neither is it my intention to be found guilty of a murder I didn't commit. So you see, my hand has been forced. I tell the truth now as an act of self-preservation.
The truth.
Until now, the prosecution was completely unaware of these details.
Yes, well, sorry about that. Having shot me in the arm, the pawnbroker was then shot in the back by the accused. And as I said, she was showered in his blood.
You say the blood splattered over the accused's coat. Are you sure on that point?
Oh yes, quite sure. All over the black overcoat that pickpocket girl was wearing at the time.
Really? If a culprit could somehow be shown to harbor vestiges of blood, that would be conclusive evidence here.
Shoot. That's how you're gonna pull this.
Such an investigation is entirely possible, my lord.
What?
Only very recently, a German scientist has developed a technique to identify human blood. So here's to the true science, not some amateurish detective's dubious foray into the world of chemistry.
There's nothing dubious about Hartley's work. His ideas are all sound.
His ideas are of no use to us here. In science, as in law, theories must be proven before they stand.
In Germany,
The technique has already been employed in the courtroom as the basics of evidence. Scotland Yard has a small quantity of the chemical reagent used, with your lordship's permission. We could shatter all vestiges of doubt within minutes.
This doesn't look good, Reno. Why not? Well, we know, don't we? There's blood all over the front of Guinea's coat. If they test it with their chemicals...
Oh, help, you're right. Just forgetting what happened yesterday.
Don't move, Guinea. I'm gonna shoot.
Oh, shoot. So we have to find a way to prove that... That's not Mr. Windibank's blood. That stains from 2 months ago. That's Mr. Mason's blood from when he was stabbed by Mr. McGilded, who was wearing the coat at the time. Of course, they ain't gonna accept it. My lord, defense objects to the test proposed by the prosecution.
Overruled. That Lord Van Zeeks makes it so at once.
With pleasure, my lord.
And while we await the results, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination.
Once they find the blood on that overcoat, Gina will be...
Counsel,
Yes, my lord.
your cross-examination.
Of course, my lord. If this cross-examination doesn't go well, if I don't manage to uncover some decisive evidence or a really compelling clue now, I have a very bad feeling about the outcome of this trial. Shoot.
Hold it!
Mr. Windibank emerged from the storeroom, I believe.
Ringo and Nash were scouring the counter when he suddenly appeared and flew at them. He already had the revolver in his hand. Fortunately, I wasn't too close. I've never been so scared in me life, all my life.
Yeah, we're just your regular mild-mannered burglars, that's all. We don't like violence.
It says the pair who carry a gun. Whatever. What do you mean when you say you weren't near the entrance to the shop?
I was in the doorway, running my eyes over the shelves of forfeited items.
Looking for the music box, of course.
The broker went for Nash in the first place. Then Ringo joined in, making it 2 against 1, so I assumed they could handle the situation. But I was wrong.
I was trying to help me little brother, but the old geezer took me over the blooming counter.
Shall I pull me gun, that old new fella? Ain't that soon made him a scarper?
And the pair of you setting upon the bold defenseless pawnbroker together. Shame on you. Sorry, Gov.
I don't even know. What does it say at the end?
What's your feeling, Bruno?
As much as I hate to admit it, I don't see any obvious holes in his testimony.
But you have to find a way to break this man.
And quickly, too, because once they discover the blood on the overcoat Gina was wearing...
It's a bit strange that he's so sure of himself about seeing the blood splatter over Ginny's coat. Doesn't strike me as the sort of thing you'd claim if you hadn't genuinely seen it happen.
But we know that Gina didn't shoot Mr. Windibank, so what's going on?
All I know is it's very unfair. Why should some German scientist test be acceptable as evidence when mine and Hurley's wasn't? Techs can use test tubes too.
Never mind that. I have to find a really stark inconsistency in his testimony somewhere. I have to find it before the prosecution discovers the bloodstain on Gina's coat. Actually, I might already know. I pursued the man shut. I can see through the peephole in the door. There's one thing that's been bothering me, and I think I know what it is. Yeah. That wasn't there before. The door hole.
Objection!
What?
Hold it!
You mean that's the moment when you were shot? Yes, though I didn't immediately realize what had happened, of course. Things crashed to the floor from the counter as the three men were brawling. It was at exactly that moment that it happened, so I didn't hear the gunshot. And the bullet went to strike the counter in the wall behind you. So it would appear. When I looked at my arm, I saw it was bleeding badly, so I wrapped my handkerchief around it. Seeing as I couldn't explain what had happened to a doctor, I had no choice but to wait for it to heal. I didn't imagine it would still be bleeding 2 days later.
Did Mr. Windibank tend to shoot you, do you think?
Well now, I don't imagine he even noticed I was there, to be honest. Perhaps the gun went off accidentally. Anyway, it didn't quite strike home.
When I pulled my gun on him, he tried to shove me out the way.
And then he scuppered that through that door up back. At which point, what did you do?
I need to show... How can I prove that that wasn't there, and why is it different? The door hole thing.
Hold it!
You mean you could chase after him? I don't recall the reason why, but I ran after him to the back of the shop. And what about this peephole in the door you mentioned?
Well, unsurprisingly, the storeroom door's a solid job made of stout wood. But there's a small opening in it, about head height, that lets you see what's in there from the outside.
Actually, I should know that, shouldn't I? I looked through that myself that night. But it wasn't there. It was there and wasn't.
And what about burgling brothers?
Did you see what went on through this peephole as well?
No, not likely, Gov.
It's nothing of the sort, Gov.
I doubt these two buffoons were even aware of the peephole's existence. So the Skulkenbergs were there, but they didn't see the killing of Mr. Windibank take place. Inside the storeroom, I could see the broker and that young girl standing there.
And the defendants?
Yes, though neither of them noticed that I was looking. The girl raised a gun and pointed straight at the man.
And then, what did you see next?
Shoot, he's gonna pull this on me. Yes, when the crime was discovered, the defendant was found with a gun in her hand. But that was Mr. Windibank's gun, from which only a single bullet had been fired. And as we've already established, Mr. Graydon, that bullet was fired at you. But no, it wasn't the broker's gun that the pickpocket girl had when I saw her. Yes, the bullet from Windibank's gun grazed my arm. And yes, Skulken's gun grounded the detective. But this was another gun entirely, a third gun.
The broker's gun was not the murder weapon, so clearly there had to be a third firearm involved. In other words, the accused must have had her own gun with her at the time.
Objection!
I don't know how she got it, but no other gun was found at the scene. Calm yourself, counsel. Sorry? You must consider the events in order. A first I saw the broker and the girl glaring at each other, but then all of a sudden, the broker turned to run. And it was at that moment that the little gutter rat shot him in the back.
A chilling image, I must say.
Shoot.
Hold it!
All over her. Yes, through the peephole I saw it clearly. Of course, the stains are invisible now, what with the coat being such a dark color. But I assure you, the garment is sullied with the victim's blood. Well, it is sullied with blood, that's for sure.
That's not Mr. Windibank's blood, is it?
No, that's not right. It's Mr. Mason Milverton's blood from when McGilded stabbed him 2 months ago.
So annoying. Why don't they accept Hurley's chemical analysis so we can prove that?
But they won't, so unfortunately we can't use it as evidence to support our case.
Bother.
We're in trouble.
Hold it!
Did I hear you correctly? She threw the gun out the room? That's right. After the broker fell to the floor, she started walking over.
Over where?
In the direction of the storeroom door, to where I was watching. Of course, I quickly retreated, and then the girl dropped the gun through the peephole onto the floor on my side of the door.
But why on earth would she do such a thing?
I couldn't tell you. Perhaps she was hoping to distance herself from the murder weapon. Without thinking, I went and picked it up. I suppose I was worried about just leaving it there in case any more tragedies took place.
So it was you, in fact, who took the third gun from the scene of the crime.
Yes, it was yours truly. I left the clear up to my lackeys and left. Clear up?
We made a bit of smash around the counter, so Mr. Whistle and Flute here told us to tie you up.
He thinks he's a bloomin' mama sometimes.
Well, I was paying you enough, by God!
Tell me, Mr. Graydon, when you left the pawnbrokery that night, was it by any chance the second disc disc in your pocket?
You little toe rag!
You're like a bull at a gate, aren't you? Mr. Graydon.
Excuse me!
Excuse me? Gentlemen! Can we not try and kill each other in the witness stand?
Something wrong, sunshine.
That should be my line! You do realize you're just finally shaking Mr. Skulkin.
Blimey, isn't he a bit of an hooliganity?
What's going on just now?
You saw me grab me whistle! Why the blazing, he said. Didn't you mention the third gun when we got down? You down at the station?
And why didn't you?
Cause we didn't know nothing about it! All that flaming people in the door! Sorry about that. I can be prone to losing my rag sometimes, not hurt, are you?
That seems...
God blimey, the way he's looking at me! I'm telling you that he's giving me the wild willies!
That was strange. The inspector doesn't normally get quite as worked up as that. He wouldn't normally grab someone.
No, that wasn't like Gregsy at all. He's normally all sweetness and light, no matter what I say to him.
Yeah, well, I think he might be a special case, Cyrus.
Well, anyway, I was definitely out of the character.
Hold it!
Let's try going through the rest of that. Oh, exactly. Retreated. I admit to nothing of the sort. After all, you can't even show the cult such discs exist, can you? as expected. He won't admit to anything else unless I can thrust evidence in his face.
It's not as easy as you thought, is it? To pin a crime on this level. It won't stick. Not murder, not treason.
Maybe not right now, but you won't be sneering like that forever. Oh, wait. Shoot, I hit the wrong button. Was there any testimony, any other statement that mentioned a second disc?
Hold it!
Mr. Meg emerged. Nash. Revolver. Scared. Regular. Don't like violence. Care gun. Sigh. Entrance. Flashy. Music box. Broker. Ringo. Wrong. Help. Gun. Scarper. Shame. Sorry. My lord! Requesting your lordship permission to interrupt the cross-examination.
Explain yourself, officer.
I have the results of the test I was ordered earlier, my lord.
The blood on the accused overcoat. Thank you, officer. Very well, cross-examination is hereby temporarily suspended. I presume you have no objection, counsel?
No, my lord.
Well, I have it. The report, please, Inspector.
Yes, sir. The traces of a human blood were found on overcoat defendant, Miss Gina Troy. From extended stage, it would appear that they were resolved splat, battering following a gunshot wound. And a report.
Goodness me.
Here goes nothing.
See? What did I tell you?
Objection!
No, the blood on the coat is not Mr. Windibank's.
What on earth makes you say that, counsel?
The coat originally belonged to Magnus McGilded. Just before his coat was deposited at Windibank's, McGilded had fatally stabbed Mr. Mason Milverton. So the blood on that overcoat is the blood of the brickmaker from the omnibus.
Objection!
Well, the dead cannot speak. Isn't that right, my Nepalese friend?
Sorry?
2 months ago, in this very courtroom, did you not argue fervently for Mr. McGild's innocence? And yet now that the man is dead, you brand him as a murderer. Your conduct shows any shred of respect you may have earned for yourself in this country.
But that was...
I call it belly disgrace. Treachery is what it is.
I'll determine whether the blood on that coat is 2 months old or not. Even a stereoscope couldn't answer that. Raw not pop out. It can't be done.
But... We used Mr. Shum's specially formulated chemical...
It just shows detective, not chemist.
Would you put such faith in a chemical formula devised by me, for example, when I'm a communications officer?
I held our prayers for a starving boy and he ran away crying. Sherlock Sholmes is barely more than a figment of the public's imagination. His name carries no weight in this courtroom. No weight at all.
How could you say that?
Victory is sweet indeed. This proves that my testimony is the whole truth from the start to finish.
How do you arrive at such conclusions, sir? As the witness said, the accuser coat was spattered with the blood of the victim. The only way Mr. Green could have possibly known that fact is if he in fact saw it. In other words, his testimony is solid and the conclusion is singular. It was the accused who shot the victim in this case. That is the whole truth.
No.
My lord. It's been a long battle, this one, but the old warhouse has something to say now, if you please. Mr. Foreman. As of this moment, sir, the squadron reached its final decision. Ready, men? All for one now!
Sir!
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Well, it would appear the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have reached an unanimous verdict. The defense has consistently failed to unpick this witness's testimony. Here's to any attempt you may have at unpicking the jurors' decisions being equally successful.
I don't believe it. After I've come so far, how's it all unraveling on me so fast? How very distressing to be held in such low esteem. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruto?
Officer, you've delivered your report now. That will be all, thank you.
It occurs to me with some regularity, Mr. Naruto. I know you are. That scientific truths are determined not by science, but by none other than the human mind. I know that voice. Am I going mad? Ah! Mr. Sholmes!
What is the meaning of this? Order, order, order!
What business do you have here, detective? Last I heard, you were recuperating in a hospital.
Hospital, I should be, had I not been sent upon an errand.
What errand?
Hurley, it's really you. You're awake at last.
Yes, good day, Iris. I appear to be rather late for rise, my apologies. Now, my lord, if you will humour me...
In what matter, sir?
I have something of great importance I wish to give to the young lawyer over there. I need no more than 5 minutes. Would you be so kind as to spare us the time?
What say you to this, Sullivan Zeeks?
This trial has taken many hours of the court's time, having spent so long already. Exactly! Having spent so long already, we don't want to go wasting any more precious time!
As I wish saying, having spent so long already, it would seem churlish to deny defense a mere 5 minutes.
Very well, counsel, you have 5 minutes.
Why am I being saved by 5 minutes once again? Also, when did you get your clothes on? My dear fellows, I apologize for my tardy arrival. Mr. Sholmes, are you alright now? Alright, I'm all wrong. Sorry, I've only just managed to summon the strength to stand, man. I asked the judge for 5 minutes. But I fear even that may prove too much for me. Pray forgive, I should pass out. Let's make discussion as short as possible.
Hurley, this place is full of idiots. None of them can see how wonderful your chemical blood analysis is.
Ah, well, that concoction of mine really was just a bit of sport to assist me in my investigations. I never took the trouble to refine it for appraisal by the scientific community, an oversight on my part. Right, modesty? Surely not. But enough of that. I'm here to give you this, my dear fellow. What's that? Lavender furoshiki wrapping? A leaving present from Miss Susato. From Miss Susato? If possible, matters were to be settled without me giving you this. Those were her instructions when she asked me to do her this favor. I don't understand. Miss Susato foresaw today's events, I believe. She knew that the culprit would attempt to escape justice by means both devious and underhand, and that you, Mr. Naruto, fighting fairly as you want to do, would find yourself in considerable peril. At this very moment of crisis, you are to be given this small parcel. Those were the dear lady's instructions. A leaving present from Mr. Sato. Whatever could it be? Oh! What is this?
Oh! It's the machine I made.
Ah! For cat flaps. Wait. That's it. That's it. That's why that's weird. That's why the flap doesn't exist here, but it exists here. It was the cat flap thing.
Look, I use this. It's my latest invention.
What is that?
I call it the cat flap map. It can make a cat flap for any furry little friend like Waggy in seconds. What's Susie up to?
Mrs. also muttered the following words before she left. I'm a failure. I don't deserve to be a judicial assistant. Oh. I think I get it. She's the one who made the cat flap thing to see what was inside. Isn't it? But as a result, it meant that everything started falling apart for us. What? Did she say something like that? You really are the best judicial assistant in the world.
Well, that's extremely flattering. But I'm sorry to say that I've been a complete failure.
Whatever does she mean by that, Mr. Chums? That night, when you left Winterbanks in pursuit of the thieves, Miss Susano made use of one of this contraption for a certain purpose. That is your answer, dear fellow. Not all that cryptic then. Zelson used this cat flap thing that night, but why? Flap!
Your 5 minutes is over.
We're out of time already. I'm grateful to you for affording us that brief recess, Mr. Reaper.
I need no thanks, Detective.
After all,
The die's cast.
is it really?
The jurors are unanimous in their leanings. No doubt my learned friend will consider summation examination. But any attempt to alter the verdict now would be utterly futile.
I wonder, Mr. Naruto. Yes? The rest is down to you, dear fellow. What is your plan? The rest is down to me. I need to be careful here. If I make a wrong move, the trial will end. Badly. My lord, the defense requests... I think I want to go back to the cross-examination. They said it was suspended, right? If I can go back to it, I can prove now that the door was never there. The flap was never there. He had to have... The door had to have been opened. He couldn't look through a cat flap to see it. Give me a cross-examination. Further cross-examination.
Objection!
The jurors have spoken. Protocol dictates that you may not cross-examine a new witness now.
No. The defense is not asking for the cross-examination of a new witness, rather to continue with one of an existing witness.
What?
It would appear that a rather important detail has escaped your attention, Mr. Reaper. My lord, requesting your lordship's permission to interrupt the cross-examination.
Thank you, officer. Very well, the cross-examination is hereby temporarily suspended. I presume you have no objections, counsel?
No, my lord.
This is it. So nobody can say anything then. If Bruno has to resume his cross-examination of Mr. Graydon.
The court is obliged to allow it.
This is absurd! I will remind those present that this is my courtroom. I concur that the defense is entirely within its rights to request the continuation of the cross-examination. However, I will not permit any unremitting protraction of these proceedings. Therefore, I have decided to afford the defense one final opportunity in concluding the cross-examination. Counsel, you must choose but one statement from the witness's testimony, and but one piece of evidence to present in support of your argument against it.
A single chance to present evidence.
If, following that, the situation remains unchanged, I shall move to adjudication. Is that clear, counsels? You will not press the witness any further.
My lord.
Yes, my lord. A single statement, and a single piece of evidence. Most generous? Well, then, Mr. Naruto, it's high time I fell in a dead faint.
I leave this in your capable hands.
But, Mr. Sholmes!
To stand so insolently before the coroner state of such high fervor, like the man has extraordinary strength of mind or an extraordinary lack of feeling. I imagine he's feeling very little now. The detective is sleeping soundly in one of the antechambers. Strike a man when he's down, why don't you? Well then, Constable, are you fully prepared?
I need one statement. One thing only. Yes. One statement, one piece of evidence. I won't let Mr. Sholmes down, or Iris. And I won't waste this final chance that Susawa-san has given me. This is going to decide the entire outcome of the trial.
Very well then. Under the terms I've outlined, you may resume the cross-examination.
This is it. I know what I need to show. Before I check that, though, do I need to look at this in any way? Looks like I could rip through anything.
They're good, aren't they? They're made of special alloy developed for this job. Cutter rotates 10 times per second so it can get through any kind of door in no time at all.
And what are the two parts there at the top?
Those are for attaching hinges to a section of the door that gets cut.
Right, of course.
Nothing can match this machine for power. It can make mincemeat even the toughest doors.
It sounds so charming and friendly when you say it's what it's for, but it feels like the reality of the Catful map is that it's a grim weapon of door destruction.
That guy's so adorable. There's nothing I wouldn't do for him, even developing deadly weapons.
Murder weapons. It doesn't seem as though there's anything special about it. Before we continue, I'm gonna go to the restroom real quick. Get situated. Stop squeaking! The moment of the shooting. Again. Wrong button. Pursue the man, but he's jumped. Has to be this door.
Objection!
What on earth is that eccentric contraption, Counselor?
Oh, it's my Catful map, my lord. Makes a way for cats to get in and out of the room. It can cut through any door you can think of, and make a new little door in the middle of it.
That's right, my lord. It's a device for creating so-called cat flaps. Small doors for cats to come and go as they please, without their owners having to open the main door.
I'm sure we can all work that out for ourselves later. But that cat lover's contrivance has no possible relevance to this case.
Oh, really? course it doesn't. To start with, there was no cat flap in the pawnbroker store. Bingo.
Not being capable of cats myself, I'm afraid that I fail to see what this has to do with the matter at hand.
Perhaps it would help if I described its function in another way, then. This contraption is able to create a peephole in any door you can imagine, in practically no time at all.
I beg your pardon. A peephole, you say?
2 nights ago, we arrived at the scene only minutes after the murder of Mr. Windibank had taken place.
That's right. Go on the paperwork of the yard. It was you, your Japanese assistant, and Sholmes.
Yes, the 3 of us were together, and it's recently come to my attention that my assistant made use of this device at the time.
Your assistant did what?
There was a peephole in the storeroom door. I can attest to that fact. Because I looked through the peephole myself in order to see inside the locked storeroom.
This is ludicrous. What are you trying to say? Of course there was a peephole in the door. I said as much in my testimony. How else could I have witnessed the crime, for pity's sake?
Yes. How could you?
What?
Counsel, I kindly say what you mean.
Alright. It's time. Time to strike the final blow. What I mean is this, my lord. My assistant made the peephole in the storeroom door, and until such time as she did, the door had no hole in it to look through.
No!
Objection!
This is a farce! Are you really suggesting that the peephole in the door was...
Yes, it was created only after the incident had taken place, by my judicial assistant using this device.
Your assistant tampered with this crime scene whilst being fully aware of the gravity of her actions. That's the most serious act of vandalism.
For which I humbly apologize, my lord. It was in the few minutes that I left the scene in order to pursue the Skullcumbears and alert the police. Nevertheless, in the light of this new information, it becomes apparent that Mr. Green's testimony is riddled with holes.
Riddled with... Explain yourself, counsel.
The majority of Mr. Green's testimony that appears to incriminate the defendant is based upon what he witnessed through the peephole in the storeroom door.
Yes, that filthy girl shooting the man in the back.
However, if at the time of the incident, that peephole did not yet exist in the door, there's no possible way that you could have seen what you claimed to have seen. In short, your entire testimony is a pack of lies.
Order, order, order! Is there any credit to this revelation?
Objection!
None whatsoever, as my learned friend must surely realize. Exactly. This is just some cheap trick designed to discredit me.
I'm afraid not, sir.
Of course it is. Do you seriously expect people to believe that plaything can cut through a solid wooden door?
Oh yes, Einstein can be very powerful. It can even cut through the toughest doors.
That's absurd. I don't believe it for a second.
Ha! I had a feeling you'd say that.
What?
Waggy! Gooey! Time for dinner!
Iris, I don't think you can do that to the Supreme Court.
Well,
Young lady, this is the Old Bailey. One does not make cat flaps in the oak paneling of the Old Bailey.
I'm not done yet, don't worry. This doesn't mean that the people in the storeroom door when it was made by your machine. And there's no way you can prove that it was.
no, but it's easy.
What?
The cat flap my cat format creates are all fixed sizes, and the dimensions of people at Windibanks are an exact match. Oh, still, he's lost for words.
Excellent work, Iris. Thank you.
And now it's my little friend's turn just to be lost for words, I feel.
I believe your judicial assistant has already left the country for your Eastern Island home. Well, yes, that's true.
Then you may have some difficulty in establishing all the facts. For the sake of our argument, let's assume the people has dimensions that are perfect fit for this contraption. In that case, when was the people cut? The prosecution demands proof of your answer. What is the purpose of this line of inquiry, Lord Van Zeeks? It's very simple, my lord.
The defense argues that the peephole was created after the incident using this device. But now that the perpetrator has returned to her native land, she cannot testify to the fact. There's no proof. And for as long as the defense remains unable to prove that when the peephole was made, my learned friend's claim amounts to nothing more than a baseless accusation. What?
Indeed, that is so, Lord Van Zeeks. Well, Counsel?
Don't give up now, Bruno. This is the time to create your own opening and force your way through.
I don't know if I can do this, but I do know one thing. Susaru-san is the greatest judicial system in the world.
Very well. The counsel for the defense will present evidence to support the claim made. Proof that the peephole was in the door of Winterbank's storeroom was created after the event and not before.
Take that!
Let's end this. What are you? A print from that detective's infernal cameras again?
My judicial assistant, Miss Susaru Mikotoba, is an extremely intelligent and capable woman, which is why I never had any cause to doubt that she would have considered this scenario and made sure I had the necessary proof.
And the necessary proof is this photographic print, Counsel.
This print shows a scene in the shop moments before the defendant entered the premises.
Agreed. And it also shows the accused mercilessly wielding a gun in the direction of the defenseless broker.
But more to the point, it pictures the storeroom door in the background.
Let me see that print again. I don't believe it. This really is quite remarkable. The door of the storeroom is completely devoid of a people of any description.
Mr. Graydon! You couldn't possibly have witnessed the crime as you claim to have done, because at this time it happened, there was no people in the door. In other words, your testimony is a catalog of lies.
Order! 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 I'm satisfied the defense has substantiated his claim beyond reasonable doubt. This witness's testimony was entirely fallacious.
That's not the only thing we know now beyond all reasonable doubt. My learned friend's assistant guilt can no longer be denied. The woman tampered with a crime scene. But more importantly,
Good lord, there's more, Lord Van Zeeks.
the defense may have established a reprehensible instance of perjury. But that is no proof that this man is the victim's killer.
Yes, that's right. What? I was there at the scene. It's true. And I was shot in the arm. It's true. That's all. Yes, in fact, if you look at the circumstances, I am the victim here. Oh, please. No! I don't believe this. But they're right. As it stands now, I don't have any definitive proof that he's the culprit.
Still, can't worm his way out of it now.
Iris?
You know what they say. There's no point locking the cat's door after the cat has bolted. Isn't that right, Bruno? As Hurley always says, one lie begets another. No, wait, that might have been a line I wrote for him in one of my stories.
Well, no matter who said it first, you're right. Mr. Graydon, not only did you give false testimony to court, but the lies you told make no sense. Make no sense? What do you mean by such a remark? What you said in your testimony reveals that you know something you shouldn't have known. In other words, there is a fundamental inconsistency in your statements. What?
Objection!
This is a provocative talk, counsel. Won't you enlighten the court? Explain this alleged inconsistency.
Iris was right. One lie begets another. The inconsistency is revealed by the lies in the witnesses' statements. They show that Mr. Graydon had knowledge of something he shouldn't have known about anything about, namely... the bloodstains on the coat, right? The bloodstains that were present on Miss Lestrada's coat. That's right. The victim's blood splattered all over when she got shot. When she shot him. But how would you have known that?
Obviously, because I saw her do it to the people and...
The point is not that you lied in your testimony, Mr. Graydon. It's the nature of the lie you concocted that's so revealing. You're not making any sense. Let me ask you a simple question. How is it, Mr. Graydon, that you knew of the existence of the peephole in the storm door? What? Well, obviously,
Has the cat got your tongue, witness?
The peephole in the door was made after the incident occurred. And once I returned to the shop after having failed to catch the two burglars, Scotland Yard's investigators arrived immediately. Since that time, police have been at Windibank constantly carrying out their investigation. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson?
Yes, of course. The place is chock full of porn articles, and my lads had to thoroughly examine them all. So I gave them all to have 2 officers working around the clock and shift so we can get through it all.
And consequently, there's no way that you, Mr. Graydon, could have gained access to the shop. Therefore, you should have known nothing about the peephole in the storm door. So the fact that its existence forms the basis of your testimony is completely inexplicable.
Objection!
And yet, the fact remains that Mr. Graydon did maintain that he witnessed the crime take place through the peephole in the door.
How on earth is that possible?
Could I have a word, please, Lord Van Zeeks? Speak, Inspector. It's just that I really ought to be getting back to the station now to put in my report. Is there really nothing more I can add to this testimony, so if it's all the same to you... Permission denied. Oh. It's not at all the same to me, Inspector. Not at all. You will remain exactly where you are until this trial concludes.
Of course, sir. Mr. Graydon? You shouldn't have known about the existence of that peephole. Which can only mean that you must have been informed about it by somebody else.
Objection!
Stop there, my learned friend. You realize, I trust, that the words you have just uttered have extremely serious implications.
Yes. But the defense believes that the details about the case that Mr. Graydon claims to have seen must have been revealed to him by a certain person before his testimony. And in fact, considering a particular clue we have, there's really only one person that could be.
Who is the person in question, counsel? Who gave this witness details of the crime scene to facilitate his false testimony?
This is all basically joining up to be one giant conspiracy. Ain't that right, detective?
Take that!
The truth is, it can only have been you, Inspector Gregson.
Objection!
You had better have some proof to substantiate such a rash claim, my learned friend.
Consider the fact that we have only been aware of Mr. Ashley Graydon's identity for the last few hours. We learned of it only during the course of the trial today.
Indeed, preparations for his testimony were made with great urgency during an hour-long recess, while the police executed the subpoena and brought the man here from the communication station.
And until that time, Mr. Graydon would have had no idea. No inkling that he would suddenly be required to appear in court.
Are you suggesting that until such time he was summoned?
Yes, my lord. Until then, it's reasonable to assume he knew nothing of the peephole. It was only once Mr. Graydon was in the stand that he realized his position. that he would have to defend himself against the accusation that he was the third intruder.
Oh, you're suggesting to the court that it was while this trial was in progress that he received the information, so he could commit perjury in order to save his skin.
Exactly. The only person with knowledge of the investigation that he had any contact with.
It's you, Inspector Gregson.
This is a bloomin' outrage. Why would I be giving away details of our investigators to this fella?
I was summoned to his lordship's chambers during the recess in any case. Have you forgotten?
Quite true. I had a number of questions regarding the events that transpired at the pawnbrokery.
Which means the first time these two laid eyes on one another was after proceedings resumed following the recess. Since then, they've been in full view of the stand, where such illicit discussions couldn't possibly have occurred.
Oh, I just remembered something, Bruno.
What is it, Iris?
There was one time before, wasn't there? I think it was when Ginny was testifying.
Oh yeah, now you mention it. When the bailiff was dispatched to retrieve McGillicud's music box from the scene of the crime.
That's it.
It was during that testimony. I remember finding it strange at the time. Mr. Graydon and the inspector seemed to be having some kind of secret discussion. It would have been possible for you to give Mr. Graydon the information he needed, then.
You little toe rag. You're making all this up. I'm a respectable Scotland Yard inspector, for crying out loud. Why would I do something like that? Why would I be giving away confidential details to the like of this bloke?
Admittedly, you wouldn't have had any reason to do something like that for no gain. But perhaps it was part of a deal of some kind. Then it starts to make more sense.
What deal, Counselor?
I wonder if perhaps in exchange for details about the peephole at the crime scene, Mr. Graydon agreed to give a certain something to the inspector.
I'm sure I need not remind the inspector that if found to be true, striking a deal of any kind with a witness would be considered a gross case of malfeasance.
Objection!
It's becoming clear that jumping in with accusations is this Nipponese student's specialty.
I don't do that.
But with the stakes so high, the prosecution is not prepared to listen to baseless charges. It is incumbent on the defense now to present evidence in support of this diabolical claim.
Evidence?
What are you proposing that the inspector demand of the witness in return? The court must see proof of this alleged deal.
If Inspector Gregson really did strike a deal with Mr. Graydon, then logically, there's only one thing he could have asked for. That must be it.
Bruno, do you think it could be?
Yes. It's the missing link that would join all the dots together in this puzzle.
I must press you for an answer now, Counsel. What evidence explains the nature of the alleged deal that Inspector Gregson made with the witness?
Take that!
Inspector Gregson, besides this murder, is it not true that you've been working on another very important case?
What are you getting at now, Sunshine?
Is it possible that this other top-secret case is what's alluded to in this newspaper article here? The classified secrets being leaked overseas from the Ministry of Justice?
Oh, what the bleeding Nora could you...
We discovered, during the course of this trial, the music box deposited at Windibanks by Magnus McGilded. A special music box designed to play two discs at once. It would seem very likely now that encoded on the pair of discs that were in McGilded's possession are the leaked classified secrets. So I put it to you, Inspector, that in order to recover the second of the discs containing those secrets, you covertly made a deal with Mr. Graydon, which you exchanged the disc for details of the case.
You little...
Order, order, order! On the day of the incident, when we met you at Windibanks, you said this.
I'll be taking whatever it is of McGillen's out of the yard, thanks very much. So hand it over.
No, don't give it to him. It's mine, that is, mine.
I'm sorry, miss. But anything belonging to McGill has to be taken into evidence now.
Scotland Yard already knew that at the time, isn't that right? That Max McGill was involved in the stealing of government secrets.
My orders were recover the medium used to convey the secrets leaked from the ministry, and do it on the QT, strictly hush-hush. And that explains why, when I present this disc as evidence to the court, you objected so heavily, I presume. Because you knew that it contained highly confidential information.
I mean, not likely. I wasn't that sure of it myself. I realized there was a possibility, that's all.
Inspector, surely you're not saying that in order to acquire the second of these music box discs, you did indeed reveal confidential details of the crime scene to the witness, to aid and abet this man in giving false testimony.
There's no other way that Mr. Drayton could have known the existence of the peephole. It's the only explanation. A deal was struck between these two men.
No!
Objection!
If, and I stress if, this sobering assertion turns out to be founded in truth, it would mean that the second disc is, as we speak, here in this very courtroom.
Wait, what? In this room? How could you possibly make a claim like that?
Because Inspector Gregson is a Scotland Yard detective.
What?
What's that supposed to mean? As a seasoned policeman, the inspector would have approached this alleged deal with caution. Certainly, he would not have accepted a gentleman's agreement in this matter. No, he would have insisted on having the article agreed upon in the palm of his hand.
Good gracious, then, you mean to say Inspector Gregson already has the item in question in his possession? He has the second disc actually on his person.
Yes!
The defense demands that the inspector be searched at once.
Definitely. They could only have struck a deal with the charge when Guinea was testifying for. Gragsy hasn't moved from the witness stand since.
My lord, please. Order an examination of his personal effects immediately.
Well, Inspector?
This young lad was stowed out his imagination. He's insulted me and my profession quite enough. However, if he'll put this matter to bed and dispel any doubts about my involvement, I'll happily submit myself to a body search.
He's going to agree to it.
I presume you're aware of the precepts on which you now teeter, my learned friend. You made a most serious allegation against Scotland Yard here. If following the search on the inspector's personal effects, no disc is found, you will be deemed unfit for court service. This trial will end, and my country's government will formally demand of yours that you are severely reprimanded.
That sounds serious.
Indeed, to have a visiting student make such defamatory remarks about our country's most senior police force is not something Her Majesty's government will be able to overlook.
You're just threatening Bruno because you're scared.
The accusation is beyond serious. You must be prepared for the grave consequences.
It's true. I can't imagine Gregson would have accepted a gentleman's agreement for something so critical. The disc must have physically changed hands. That's it. But somehow, something doesn't feel quite right.
Very well, Counsel, you know the implications, so let me ask you one final time.
Yes, my lord.
Do you still persist to formally requesting a search of the inspector's personal effects?
I get it now. Now I know why he was so angry. He was never angry to begin with. He was doing something. Don't search him. Search someone else. Yes, the defense formally demands the search to be conducted.
Well,
Don't say that you weren't warned, but your typical Nibonese stubbornness may well have landed you in hot water this time. Perhaps the lesson will do you some good. Fair enough. I got nothing to hide.
very well then. Bailiff, conduct...
What? The defense demands a search, but not of Inspector Gregson.
What? Now what's all this? I'm the one you're accusing, aren't I? I thought you were wanting to search me.
No, Inspector, not you. Somebody else.
What's the meaning of all this, Lost it at last, have you, sunshine? The court shouldn't have to put up with this nonsense. You're being completely irrational.
Be quiet, all of you.
Michiru's doing what you all have told him to and having the courage of his convictions. So you should respect that and listen to what he has to say in good faith. Because that's the British way.
Well said, young lady. Indeed, this court is in awe of the defense counsel's conviction and eagerly awaits his next words.
You are... No, be hasty, my lord.
If I'm not mistaken about the things I've seen in court today, I'm fairly sure that I know who has the disc at the moment. There's only one person it can be.
Counsel, of whom do you request a search now?
Sorry, buddy.
Take that!
Nash. Of course, my lord. Mr. Nash Skulkin.
Oh, well, I never.
Blimey! Me?
Very well then. Bailiff, restrain the witness and conduct a thorough search of his personal effects.
Please, my lord!
Inspector?
Scotland Yard, I have to object to the search.
Objection!
Unfortunately for you, Inspector, your objections carry no weight here. In this courtroom, only the prosecution and defense have the authority to object. My Lord Van Zieks! I have no idea what forces are in play that might influence your actions. But personally, I have no intention of obstructing the course of this trial.
Bailiff, carry out the search.
Now, hold on a moment. I don't know nothing. Nothing about no disc. Cut it out!
Here, my lord. In the witness's pocket. I found this.
Bingo.
Good lord, that's...
Another music box disc. I don't know nothing about it. Nothing.
That is the second music box disc left behind by Magnus McGilded.
Is it not, Inspector Gregson?
Order, order, order! Mr. Skulkin, what do you have to say for yourself?
Gordon Bennett! Gordon Fleming Bennett! I swear I didn't know nothing about that disc! Honest to God!
Counsel, would you please explain what is actually going on here? The alleged deal that was struck between this witness and this detective, no.
Without question, my lord.
Then, for pity's sake, why on earth was this man in possession of the disc that the inspector traded for information?
Inspector Gregson is a shrewd, calculating man who rarely loses his composure. But at one particular point in this trial, he exhibited some unusual behavior for a brief moment.
I don't recall. What unusual behavior?
It was, yes, during my cross-examination of Mr. Graydon. Tell me, Mr. Graydon, when you left the pawnbrokery that night, was it by any chance with the second disc in your jacket pocket?
I meant nothing of the sort.
While Mr. Graydon answered my questions, the inspector appeared to have grabbed Nash Skulkin by his coat and was shaking him violently.
Yeah, he did it all. He told me Noggin was going to fall clean off. I did. I was wishing I'd been born as me brother. I was.
And what exactly happened to make the detective attack you like that?
I ain't got a clue. He just suddenly turned and grabbed me by me whistle like that and started shaking me. What a blaze, didn't you mention the third gun when we got down the station? That's what he said. He held it right down me ear hole, he did. Me head's still throbbing now.
The way the detective behaved then was extremely out of character. But looking back now, it must have been then that he did it. That was the opportunity Inspector Gregson created for himself in order to hide the disc.
Well, bless my wig. He hid it.
You...
But I'm afraid I fail to comprehend the motive here. If the detective had acquired the disc he was after, why on earth would he then proceed to hide it in another man's pocket? This is a court of law. He could have submitted the item as evidence.
It would appear, my lord, that the inspector was not at liberty to do that.
Why ever not?
As the man himself revealed earlier, his current assignment has some special conditions. Miles were recover the medium used to convey the secrets leaked from the ministry, and do it on the QT, strictly hush hush. Hush hush. A top secret assignment is it? As far as we're aware, the information stolen comes from confidential government communications. It would seem that if the information were to be revealed in court as evidence, it would be problematic. Does that sum up the situation, Inspector? I'm operating under direct orders from the Ministry. I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to answer that question. So, realizing that there was a chance that you may be searched here in court, you took steps to hide that disc you had acquired from the witness.
Does this mean...
He only pretended to attack Mr. Skulkin in order to get close enough to him to slip the second disc into his pocket.
So it was all pretense? Well now, Inspector Gregson, and you, Mr. Graydon, are you prepared to admit the accusation made against you of this alleged deal?
Admit to it. Yours truly, please.
Mr. Graydon!
Clearly, our Eastern visitor has an uncommonly active imagination. However, there's no proof that I passed the disc on to the inspector.
Objection!
But then, how do you explain the reason why you knew about the peephole?
I'm under no obligation to explain.
What?
Yes, I lied in my testimony. That I admit, so sentence me accordingly. But that is all I admit. Murder, leaking government secrets, striking a deal with the detective. After all of this young Eastern man's fancy, I have no idea what any of that's about. You?
How many times have I hit my back on this wall? Well, what about you then, Inspector Gregson? Do you admit to making a deal with Mr. Graydon in order to acquire the disc?
Ladies and gentlemen of jury, as Scotland Yard Inspector, I will declare this and nothing more. I'm acting in the best interest of the country. Whatever I've done, it's been in the name of justice. So, Mary Republic of a fine country, I'd like to think that justice will be your guiding light when you're making your decisions.
Class act, huh?
It's quite a quandary indeed. Rarely have I encountered such extraordinary tumultuousness in the concluding of a trial. Nevertheless, in the absence of any further evidence to be presented, I believe it is time that we put the matter to the juries for the final meetings. Now, as a Korean country, I must sympathize with the old inspector.
Yes, he's a dependable man, I'm quite sure. Even crossing your eyes doesn't help when it comes to looking at his case. It's all blurred.
Well, as a medical professional, I put my faith in directive.
Graydon's highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idol. Stop.
Detective have very much trusting eyes. More than this, I cannot say.
I don't believe it! The 6 jurors they're going to believe Gregson! They just declared their decision now!
Is Jenny gonna be found guilty?
If I don't manage to produce some definitive evidence right now, then we're gonna lose. Either some proof that Graydon killed Mr. Windibank or stole the government secrets, or some evidence to force Gregson into admitting that he struck a deal with the witness.
Well then, counsel, I think it's time we impose on the jurors to declare their final decisions, no? That is, unless you have some compelling evidence you have thus far not presented to the court.
If I let the judge call on the jurors to announce their leanings, Gina will be found guilty.
So there's no choice then, Bruno. You have to throw some more evidence at him.
This is it now. It all comes down to this. Who do I present evidence against? Gregson or Graydon? I think I have an idea. There's one thing I can think of that might force hands. Gregson. Inspector Gregson. There's one final piece of evidence I would like you to see.
What? What's up then?
If you refuse to acknowledge that you did in fact strike a deal with the witness here today, then you leave us no choice but to examine this piece of evidence thoroughly.
Well, go on then.
This is my last chance, so I'm gonna have to force his hand here. One final piece of evidence to get this detective to admit to the deal he clearly struck with Graydon.
Take that!
Is that Mr. McGilda's peculiar music box, counsel?
Yes, with the disc already in place, ready to play. I think perhaps now would be a good time to listen to the sound produced by the music box again. Only this time... with the second disc we've just discovered set in place as well!
Goodness, this disc council.
Hold it!
No! Wait! I can't let you do that!
Why not?
Because, well... because it's got nothing to do with this case, that's why!
Objection!
Not true, Inspector. The defense has already proposed that the sounds heard by the court earlier from this music box were part of Morse code message. We know that Morse code comprises of 2 distinct tones. The defense believes that the second disc contains the second tone needed to complete the message. And now we have a chance to confirm that theory.
For crying out loud, Sunshine! We're talking about state secrets here!
If you go letting that whole courtroom hear confidential information like that, it's treason!
Then do you admit the charge? That in order to protect those state secrets, you engage in unlawful dealings with the witness.
You're mad!
If you let that secret information out into the public domain,
You'll be making an enemy of the entire British government, you idiot!
Objection!
Let's not forget, Inspector, that you, a Scotland Yard officer, leaked confidential case details to a witness. That you continue to lie in court. And all because by fair means or foul, you're determined to do your duty. Well, by fair means or foul, I'm prepared to do mine. Don't you dare! I will stop at nothing to protect my client. I don't care who I make an enemy of. My lord, if you please. The court must hear the sounds made by that music box.
Come on, Fancy! For Pete's sake, stop him!
Objection!
But... Inspector, you should know my methods by now. I'm a prosecutor. I'm no Scotland Yard puppet. In this courtroom is my duty is to the law, so let me propose a toast to uncovering the truth. By fair means or foul.
No!
Very well. Defense's stance here, and now the prosecution has been made very clear, I feel. Therefore, in accordance with the defense's request, the court will now listen as this music box is set in operation once more. This time with the second disc in place and both discs playing simultaneously.
Let's hear it. And juror number 5, can you confirm?
oh, listen to that. It's unmistakable now. It's Morse code.
Alright, I admit it! Whatever you want! For the love of God! Shut that blooming box up!
Bingo. Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. Bitrate is getting a bit wonky. Bitrate is getting a bit wonky. Why is this being so indecisive again? Trying to see if I can let it stabilize for a little bit. think it's good enough right now. Let me ask you again, Inspector. Did you, or did you not, strike a deal with the witness next to you in the stand, Mr. Ashley Graydon?
Specifically, did you furnish the witness with confidential case details in exchange for this music box disc? Did you reveal the existence of the peephole in pawnbroker's storeroom door, Inspector?
I did. Stop! What are you doing, man? It's all exactly like the young Easton lawyer said. When the trial resumed after the recess, and we were stood here in the stand together, that's when he approached me with the deal. Shut up, you imbecile! Shut up!
You there. You're the detective who turned up at the pawnbroker the other day, aren't you? I may have something you're looking for, Inspector, with me at this very moment. So how about a trade? I suggest you accept. Or information that may make certain individuals uncomfortable will soon become very public indeed.
I couldn't let that information become public knowledge. Not under any circumstances. So I accepted the man's proposal and told him detail about the case that should put him in the clear. The people in the storm door and the bloodstains on the overcoat.
By giving false testimony, this witness intended to have the defendant wrongly accused of murder. Inspector, you knew that. Yet you still revealed those details to facilitate the witness's perjury.
I did. But then it turned out the peephole had only been made that night, after the incident took place. Scotland Yard wasn't aware of that, if I'm perfectly honest.
Well, Mr. Graydon, what do you have to say for yourself? There's nothing and no one left for you to hide behind. You struck a deal with the inspector in order to escape conviction of a very serious crime. Namely this. You are the third intruder who broke into the pawnbroker in the night in question. And you perpetrated the murder of the proprietor, Mr. Pop Windebank. You... Traitor! Here goes.
Bailiff! Restrain that man! At once!
That's it then. It's all over. I despised my life growing up. Those slums are vile places. I was cursed from birth, born into poverty, the son of a penniless artisan. My parents did nothing but quarrel all day long. What little money they had was never spent on me. So I set about studying to better myself, to one day escape from that hellhole.
And you eventually became a communications officer. I admire your determination.
But then you decided to try selling government secrets. Why?
Isn't it obvious? Because I wanted money. Even now, years later, the nightmares of my life in the slums wake me in the small hours. I want to drown them out with more money than anyone who lived in that squalor could ever imagine. Then one day, I met him. Master Magnetic McGilded.
You're a fiend with acquired talent, so you are. I have money to throw your way if you're interested. All you need to do is go along with me little plan now.
I was to steal the Ministry's telegraphic message logs, and McGilded would buy them for a handsome sum. As I was responsible for inspections of the Ministry's communications office, it was a simple enough task.
The lure of the devil's offerings. How easy it is to succumb. But you must surely have realized the seriousness of the crime you're committing.
And for that reason, I took great lengths to ensure that my actions were untraceable.
By using the music box.
My father was a brickmaker, though my mother divorced him when I was still a child. Yeah, Mr. Mason Milverton. That's right. He was very skilled with his hands. He'd once been a music box maker's apprentice. I imagined his skills would be sufficient to create a machine that could generate Morse code. So I sought out my father again, to employ his services. It was the first time I'd seen him since I left the slums 10 years earlier.
Look at you, Ashley. What a fine gent you've become, eh?
He was a different man to the one in my memory. A thin, frail old man. But poverty had never broken him. Never corrupted him like it had me. I was sure that he wouldn't help me if I told him the real reason. So I made up a story. I've got some work for you, Father. I need some music box discs made.
Music box discs, eh? A musician friend of mine has written some music he wants to sell.
A musician friend of mine has written some music that he wants to sell to the public. I brought the score with me. There are two, actually.
I'd be delighted, son. It's been 20 years since I did any work like this, though. Fetch my tools, would you? They're in the loft.
That's all I had him make the two discs.
Thereby splitting the information in two. You are taking considerable precautions indeed.
It was to protect myself as much as anything. It meant that I could deal with the McGilded in two separate transactions. The first involved the first of the two discs and the music box for playing them. I exchanged them with McGilded for 10 guineas. Then on receipt of the second disc, he would pay 1,000 guineas. So, what happened on the omnibus 2 months ago was the second part of the deal. The exchange of the second disc.
Let's try something real quick.
Yes.
Let me see this real quick. Okay, alright.
Yes. I sold the man information that way a number of times already. It seems he became reluctant to part with his money.
But that doesn't quite make sense, Mr. Graydon. For why was it that on the omnibus 2 months ago, your father, Mr. Milverton, was the one dealing with Mr. McGilded and not yourself?
When I received 1,000 guineas after my first completed dealings with McGilded, I decided to give 200 to my father for his troubles. But my father realized something was amiss. In time, he worked out that I must be involved in something dubious. And when he did, he said to me,
Next time there's an exchange, you'll let your old man do it. Understand? Otherwise, I won't take your money anymore.
That was my father's way of dealing with it, I suppose. Climb onto the omnibus, hand over the second disc, and take the money from McGilded. That's it. He had no idea what was actually on the disc I'd asked him to make. He never knew. Just like I'll never know why everything went so horribly wrong that night. All I know is that the disc was taken from him, and he never returned home. It was only then that I found out what sort of monster McGilded really was. So after 10 years of not once uttering it, I swore on my father's name. to exact revenge.
Revenge?
As anyone with even the remotest knowledge of the man will no doubt be able to imagine, McGilded brought all his wealth and influence to bear in the most despicable of ways. To crush any semblance of justice in his trial. The crime scene was tampered with, the evidence was fixed, and witnesses were bribed. That trial 2 months ago was a farce from start to finish.
My feet had barely touched British soil back then, and I walked into that hornet's nest completely unaware of the sinister background behind to it all. I made plenty of money out of my dealings with McGilded by then, so I spared nothing in my arrangements 2 months ago. I knew exactly who to hire. If you're willing to pay the price, there are people in the city willing to do anything you ask. McGilded himself has shown that to me. Are you saying that... I think you have the picture now. After he twisted everything in his favor in his courtroom to ensure they walked free, I took matters into my own hands and delivered the justice that monster deserved. That tragic accident following the trial here 2 months ago was planned and executed by yours truly. McGilded's death that day was caused by this man.
Evidence ready, sir. You'd like to follow me into the courtroom?
What's this, officer? It's sooner than I was led to believe.
I was not inconvenient, sir. There's some changes to the schedule.
Well, I must be making tracks now. It's time for the inspection. They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself. So that policeman who came to tell McGilded he could examine the omnibus again. That's right. An imposter hired by me. McGilded uses wealth to manipulate the trial. He paid people to adulterate the omnibus with all manner of false evidence. He threatened witnesses to lie in their testimony. So I gave the man a taste of his own medicine. Once the omnibus was doused in paraffin, one of my sham policemen ushered McGilded inside, sent him on a one-way journey to hell. An eye for an eye. That's how I avenged my father's death.
A spine-chilling account, indeed.
But that wasn't the end of it for me. There was a loose end, you see. A loose end? Yes, I should think it's obvious. The second disc, which my father had taken to the exchange with McGilded.
Yes. There was indeed no mention of it in the man's trial 2 months ago. Clearly because it had been removed from the scene of the crime.
When I realized it was missing, I remembered something. Something from the first time I dealt with McGilded. This is the first of the 2 discs, and the music box you need to play them. Well, look at that now. What an ingenious little invention. So then, as promised, 10 guineas for you, young man. What's this? Winterbank's pawnbrokery. Aye, it is a pawnbroker's ticket, so it is. You can use it to redeem an article I deposited there for you. There's no need to give a name, just hand over the ticket and tell the fiend to wash with it. I put a jewel in the pawn for you. It'll fetch a good 10 guineas for you if you sell it, so it will. I've never heard of pawnbrokery being used in quite that way before. Have you not, Mr. Graydon? London's pawnbrokeries are very useful places, you know. Each one is like a extremely secure vault. Exactly the same way Sholmes described it. So I knew that if he'd taken steps to hide the disc, it would be in that pawnbrokery somewhere. And that on that night he killed my father, he must have entrusted the ticket to someone. Yeah, to Gina. I remember now, when we first met you at Winterbanks that afternoon 2 days ago. You had a description of Miss Lestrade written down. How did you know who we were looking for? From the trial.
That pickpocket's testimony was clearly peculiar. Anyone could see that. I realized immediately that she was another of McGilld's pawns, that he must have threatened her somehow. I was fairly convinced it would be her who had the ticket, so I started to make some inquiries. I had a strong suspicion the girl would come out with the woodwork on the redemption deadline. And he was absolutely right. And yes, sure enough, she did. All I needed to do was wait until the girl went to Winterbanks to redeem the articles. But unfortunately, she redeemed only McGilld's overcoat and one of the discs that was in its pocket. The all-important music box with the second disc inside was missing, because it had already been forfeited 2 days earlier. But I was unaware of that fact. Had it not been, I could have avoided my nighttime excursion. Meanwhile, our investigation into the stolen government secrets was progressing. We picked up on the fact that McGill was involved.
Inspector, you recovered fast.
My orders were to recover the stolen information as quickly as possible. So we started gathering the fellas' positions and examining whatever we could lay our hands on. We had a full-scale investigation going on at the yard, but we had to keep it as quiet as we could. Then, when the inspector here took the disc from me in the pawnbrokery that day, I became nervous. I was sure the music box and the second disc were still in the shop somewhere, so I knew there was a race against time. I had to find those articles before the police did.
So that's what prompted you to break into the place that same night. With the help of your old friends, the Skulkin brothers. What happened that night in the pawnbrokery, I can only describe as a nightmare. While Nash and Ringo was searching the counter, I'd located the music box I'd sold to McGill on the shelf and forfeited articles. And the second disc was inside. Yes, I slipped it into my pocket with a very deep sigh of relief. But then, something entirely unexpected happened. What are you doing in my shop? A gunshot rang out in the shop, and I felt a sharp pain in my left arm. The broker fired his gun, and the bullet pierced your limb. Yes, exactly. But unfortunately, I decided to bring my own gun with me that night, just in case. Before I knew what was happening, I'd fired back. The man had already turned to flee. I hadn't intended to fire in his direction, much less kill him. Unfortunately for both of us, the bullet hit home. It struck him in the middle of his back as he fled through the storeroom door for refuge. A sorry, sorry tale. It all took place in the blink of an eye. I don't imagine Nash and Ringo even realized what had happened at first. I was terrified, so I fled. And that's the whole story. That's everything that happened at Winterbanks on that wretched night. Anyone gonna speak? Earlier, you called McGill a monster. A man who uses wealth and influence to distort the facts and escape justice for the crime of murder. What tragic irony. For what you have done is exactly the same. You've become the very monster you saw and despised so deeply in McGilded. Yes, I think I have. Well,
This has been a long and exhausting trial. However, it would seem that at last we have arrived at the truth. Inspector Gregson, what of Mr. Ashley Graydon?
He's been restrained, my lord. He's being escorted to the yard. He'll be charged with the murder of Mr. Winterbank and stealing of government secrets.
Very good. And you, Inspector? Regrettably, you will have to face charges yourself.
Yes, my lord. Of course.
It transpires that you were complicit in helping a criminal escape justice. That fact remains whether or not you were doing so in the line of duty. The crime is a serious one, Inspector, and inexcusable. Now to the defendant, Miss Gina Estrade.
Yeah.
It is time for the final adjudication. Is the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Yes, sir. Get him, squadron, stand by, sir. This is really it now. The last push! The final call! No finishing whistle! My men are ready to deliver their verdicts! Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You will now declare your final decisions to the court.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty. Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
A unanimous victory!
That's the stuff. I'm off to cook the whole... Finally, Bruno. You finally managed to do it.
Finally is the word. I really wasn't sure if we'd come out on top for a while there.
Susie was right. You're the best lawyer in the world.
Miss Lestrade, I am not finished with you yet.
What are you looking at me like that for?
Before you start enjoying your freedom, there are certain other crimes to consider, 2 months ago, in my courtroom no less, you gave false testimony, did you not? And in relation to the trial today, not only did you unlawfully enter Winterbank's pawnbrokery, you also attempted to abscond with Mr. McGiller's property, it seems.
I never done nothing of the sort.
Of course not. It's not like you were gleefully wearing McGillet's coat in your cell yesterday or anything.
Just when I was getting excited about throwing a party for Ginny this evening.
And turning our attention to the defense, determining that when played together, the music box disc contained a message in Morse code was... Well, it was certainly most unexpected revelation, Counsel. Quite so, my lord. The prosecution was caught entirely off guard. In fact, I think we should applaud my learned friend's courage here today. I propose a toast to demanding the government's secrets be disseminated before the entire courtroom.
Very sorry about that. It was the only way I could get Inspector Gregson to admit what he'd done, so... If I may something on that point, I assume it's gonna be her. Isn't it? Yep.
It's, about the sounds produced by the music box before. I do wonder if that really was Morse code at all.
What are you saying, madam?
Oh, well, it's just that I'm really rather fanatical when it comes to Morse code, you see. So much that the whole world seems to be covered in dots and dashes to me, in fact.
Goodness, madam. An unhealthy level of obsession, one feels.
But I must say that, in my opinion, the sounds produced by these two discs were nothing more than that meaningless series of two different tones.
But... What? Can that really be? It wasn't Morse code at all? What? My lord, the defense would like to listen to Music Box again.
Oh, you have your nut! How many times do I have to tell you don't discontinue minstrel secrets till now time?
This courtroom is not an appropriate forum to discuss the nature of government communications. We know McGill has conspired to trade national secrets with our enemies, secrets acquired from Mr. Graydon. Now that the man has admitted to his crimes, we have no need to pursue the matter further.
That's really gonna bother me.
Miss Lestrade,
Yeah, my lord.
that which you have seen today here in this courtroom has been extremely disturbing. Falsified evidence, intimidation, perjury, a grim catalogue of depravity. An appalling experience to befall any child.
Come on. Ain't nothing I don't see most days in the back slums.
I beg your pardon?
If you're weak, you pay for it. That's just how life goes. Gina. But look, I reckon I'll work something out today. The world ain't fair, but if you want to change it, you gotta start at home. You gotta change how you are yourself.
Well, that's a very laudable lesson, I would say. I eagerly look forward to the born-again Miss Lestrade never acing my courtroom with her presence again. Now, with regard to the murder of Mr. Pop Windibank, proprietor of the pawnbrokery business on Baker Street, I hereby declare the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, not guilty.
Yay! Fireworks! Is that safe in a courtroom?
Yeah!
Yeah! Even better firework. Forget about my previous statement about is it safe or not.
That is all. Court is adjourned.
Hi there.
I need a drink. This has been too much for me. On personal notes, I must say you surprised me, my Far Eastern friend.
Ah. Oh.
Despite being a Nipponese, you saw through the pretense of the malice that festered within that Englishman. And at the same time, saw through the grime that the surprising heart of your English client. You have a curious talent for judging character, especially considering our very different cultures.
I don't think there's anything curious about it. Whether we're from the Empire of Great Britain or the Empire of Japan, we're all human beings. We're not so very different on the inside.
You know, I took this case for one very simple reason. To lock souls with you once again here in this courtroom.
You did?
When I encountered you for the first time 2 months ago, it reminded me of toasting friendship and trust with another Nipponese, only to find my trust betrayed. Through you, I'd hoped to look into the eyes of the man I once knew, and try to understand.
You mentioned something similar earlier today, about total betrayal at the hands of the Japanese. What happened exactly?
Well, you may ask. And one day, when the time comes, you will learn the answer, whether you like it or not.
Alright. Then I'll wait for that day, if I must.
Coming to be known as the Reaper of the Bailey, and my retirement from service 5 years ago, it gives me cause to wonder if our meeting has some deeper purpose. So, farewell, my learned Nipponese fellow. Until we meet again.
Alrighty then. I'm surprised they just let me stay in there. Me and Zeke stay in there until we're done. It's done. It's over at last. But where's Iris disappeared to? Hi. Ah. Congratulations, Gina. I knew it all along. I knew that you were innocent.
Well, you did what you said, Mr. Naruto. You believed in me right up to the end. Yours is the name.
What's that about it? I told you I had faith in you, didn't I?
No one ever asked before, see? Get the promise, I mean, properly.
That's awful.
I figured something out today. All my life, growing up in slums, I've never trusted no one. But that's just because I've been scared of being stabbed in the back. I mean, the more you trust someone, the more it hurts when they let you down.
Yeah, I think I can understand that. After all, I had a taste of it in the trial 2 months ago. I chose to trust someone and paid for it. That betrayal left a big scar. You know, though, Gina, I worked something out quite recently, too. Trusting someone else is really an exercise in learning to trust yourself. When your gut tells you it's the right thing to do, and your trust is rewarded, there's no better feeling in the world. I think I have to thank you for reminding me of that valuable lesson.
Oh, well, if you say so. Don't make a fat lot of sense to me, though.
I'm trying to say that putting my faith in you, Gina, has been a real pleasure.
For crying out loud, pack it in. I suppose I sort of feel the same way. I mean, sometimes trusting someone else is, alright.
Thanks. This is the way I see it, Ryunosuke. A defense lawyer is only as good as his faith in his client. And that comes down to how much faith he has in himself. After this experience, I'm starting to feel like I understand what you mean. Kazuma, am I living up to your expectations? Am I turning out to be the lawyer you believed I could be? Pardon the eruption.
Why are you still here?
But what the deuce does a man have to do to be nosed around here, my dear fellow? Even this guy's confused, like, the heck? That voice! It's too late for that voice now, Mr. Naruto.
I've been standing here patiently in the corner of the room for an eternity.
Ah ha ha, yes, it was me all along. I would have said so when you finally nosed me. But you people, with your incessant babbling.
Miss Sholmes. Ah ha ha, yes, it was me all along. You see...
I'd assumed you'd been taken back to the hospital, to be honest. Indeed I was, but I managed to escape again. Oh. I happen to be aware of one or two foibles of the doctor who was tending to me. I merely made my knowledge of them known to that man, and he happily issued me with a leave of absence. How very above board. But enough of my adventures. That was a fine victory, Mr. Naruto. Your tireless efforts justly rewarded, I feel. Congratulations on an order. As a close friend, I tip my hat to you. Oh, thanks.
Some great text you are. Great being cold as ice, maybe.
Have I irked you in some way, Miss Lestrade?
I've been having a snooze in your nice soft bed. Some of it's been fine for our lives.
Ah, well, that bullet did cause me to lose a substantial amount of blood. It's true. So I have indeed been feeling somewhat cold. Not perhaps as cold as ice, but, well, I have a feel. Could you take your hands off my neck, please, Mr. Sholmes? And, in some way, I suppose, congratulations on an order for you too, Miss Lestrade.
What's that supposed to mean? Why so half-hearted?
Well, naturally, it isn't my intention to alarm you, but... an acquittal in the trial of that particular prosecutor, perhaps a little... precarious. Well done, Mr. Sholmes. Not alarming in the slightest.
Oh, the reapy, I mean. Because anyone who's found guilty in a trial he was working up winds up dead anyway. Is that it?
The very point I was trying to make. As exemplified by the fate of Mr. McGill, in fact. Ah, but of course, paying no attention to the rational drivel myself.
Yeah, well, it don't bother me.
Oh, really?
Of course not. The way I see it, Reaper's a bit like him upstairs.
Him upstairs? You mean, like God?
Yeah, him upstairs knows what, right? He knows what people are like on the inside. He won't have got the wrong end of the stick. There's some cop who's like that bog trial were rotten to the core. At the end of the day, him upstairs makes sure they got what they deserve.
I suppose that's one way of looking at it. Divine justice is one thing, though. The Reaper taking matters into his own hands and claiming legs is another.
What? Well, I ain't like the McGildas of this world, so I ain't scared. I got principles, see?
A trait in you which is to be admired, Miss Lestrade.
Oi! Just give it a rest, alright?
As I was saying, congratulations are in order. News of your acquittal was very welcome news to me indeed. Let me express my heartfelt congratulations, Gina. Well,
Hey, how long have you been there? Honestly, I went to main entrance especially to meet you there.
Iris, my dear, I do apologize. But wait until I tell you what happened. This pair made utter fools of themselves.
What happened?
As you know, I have a penchant for disguise. I was hiding in this room dressed as a bailiff. But these dolts didn't notice my presence at all. They had no idea. Can you imagine, Iris? Could you credit it?
I'm not sure, really.
I beg your pardon?
I'm sorry, Hurley, but you just don't have enough of the weighty presence you seem to think you have. In fact, you really ought to be careful about that. It's going to land you in trouble one day.
I'll be more careful. Ouch.
Anyway, it's such a shame. I was so hoping to throw a party for Ginny tonight. But you won't be able to come, will you?
Don't look like I'm gonna be going nowhere for a while. You're the judge, Patter. I got stuff to make amends for, apparently. All them offenses. What was it again? Breaking and entering, taking a ball, trying to stuff what was in the lug, blah blah blah. Yeah, I think you'll find that basically being a pickpocket is the main offense.
But David ain't an offense.
It's a job, ain't it? I don't think so.
Still, it has got me thinking all this.
Maybe I should start looking for another line of work. I mean, you didn't start off as a lawyer, did you, Oda? Well, no. But I was never a pickpocket.
Well, anyway, I reckon I could make a change. I'm gonna do something for all them like me from the slums. Something that makes a difference for them. That's a wonderful idea, Kenny. I'm sure you can do it. What is it?
Nothing. Monsieur Shrade. The prison carriage has arrived, ma'am. Come with me to the rear gate at once.
Right. Well, looks like I'm off then.
Yeah. Goodbye, Gina. And good luck.
Odo?
Yeah? What? I get a parting shot to the stomach? Ah! What? What was that for?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say, so...
So you shot me? Ah, indeed. Perhaps the situation calls for a phrase hitherto missing from your vocabulary, Miss Lestrade. Eh? On occasions such as this, I would recommend a simple thank you.
Oh, yes. It's good advice. It's good advice, Ginny.
Right. I see. Well... Thanks, Odo. Thank you for everything, what you've done. For believing in me. Not at all. In fact, that should be my line. Thank you, Gina. Well, there she goes. Wonder if she'll ever if I'll ever see her again. Well, quite the indomitable pit purse.
quite a squeaky chair as well.
I nearly forgot I bought a paper outside. It's a special edition. This trial's all over the front page. Pickpocket's innocent proven. Isn't it wonderful?
You should have shown it to Jean, Iris. She would have been thrilled.
Oh no! How silly of me. Ah, but anyway, would you like the good news or the bad news?
Not again.
Well, what do you say, Bruno? Hurley?
As usual, I think I'd rather get the bad news out of the way first.
Absolutely not! I have no intention of listening to anything but good news!
And there you have it. How people answer that question says a lot about them, doesn't it?
Let's not go there. Again.
Alright then, maybe let's start with the good news this time. Rain has finally stopped. There's a record level of rainfall, apparently.
Well, that's good news indeed. We can journey back to in greater comfort. Alright then, what's the bad news?
A huge storm has left the seas very choppy. The channel in particular is awful, so sailings out of Dover have been delayed by a day or more.
Wait, Dover?
That's right. If we head to the station immediately, we may still have time. Make it in time to wave Susie off.
But there won't be a train, surely. We couldn't be that lucky. Who do you think I am, Mr. Naruhodo? Mr. Sholmes? I brushed to Victoria Station earlier and made arrangements for the Special Express. If we hurry now, we shall be there in time for dinner. And I know a fine restaurant that serves the most delicious baked sole. I thought the Great Detective does it again. Indeed he does. I happen to be aware of a number of rail transport directors' foibles. But I merely made my knowledge known to the man, and he happily laid it on the locomotive. Elementary. Just an idea, but it might be wise to stop manipulating people that way.
What are we waiting for then? To London, Victoria.
'18th of April, 5:32 a.m. That took somewhat longer than I anticipated.
Susie's boat must be about to leave now.
Mrs. Sato, where are you? Over there! Look! Looks like she's reading something.
Hold it!
Mrs. Sato, wait! What are you doing?
Mr. Naruhodo, what are you doing here?
We came as soon as we could after the trial. I mean, we heard that sailings were being delayed due to the bad weather, you see.
Oh, I see. Then tell me, how's Gina's trial go?
It went well. She was acquitted.
That's wonderful. Really wonderful news.
The book you were about to throw into the sea. It was your Encyclopedia of British Law, wasn't it?
Oh dear, I was hoping you hadn't seen that. I'm not worthy of practicing law in any way now. So, I was saying my final farewell.
You were saying goodbye to law. You, Susato-san. Would I be correct in assuming it's because of the peephole, Miss Susato?
I deliberately altered the scene of a crime, and then I tried to hide the facts. What I did is utterly unforgivable. That reminds me. How did you even come to have this, Susie? On the evening of the incident, Mr. Sholmes had invited Gina to dinner, if you remember. Oh yes, I had a wonderful time. Well, Gina gave us a little introductory lesson, didn't she? To the art of pickpocketing, I mean. That was so much fun. I stole Bruno's armband.
Yes, please don't do that again, Iris. The band's very important to me.
Well, if it's so important, you should pay more attention to it. You didn't notice for ages.
On a whim, I thought it'd be fun to see if I could take the cat map, so I put it up my sleeve.
Really?
And then I rather forgot about it until I found myself in Mr. Windibank's shop with it later that night.
I see.
And then...
Leave me, Mr. Naruto. Right.
After Mr. Naruto left the shop, I started to think that door started to play off my mind.
The storeroom door, you mean?
Yes, if Gina was anywhere in the shop, I realized it could be only behind that door. At that moment, the little device that I had up my sleeve sprang to mind. I was so worried about Gina, I simply had to know.
So you used the capsule map to make the peephole in the door.
As captured in the photographic print of the shop by one of Hurley's red-hand recorders.
Indeed. Is of the first importance, that point. Precisely when the peephole was made, that information would prove to be Mr. Naruto's greatest weapon. Though naturally, without proof, it would have amounted to nothing.
When I looked through the hole in the door, the sight that met my eyes made my blood run cold. Thoughts started to run through my mind. I remember that trial 2 months earlier.
The trial of Magnus McGilded.
I thought about how he had manipulated the evidence and arranged false testimony to secure his freedom. Made the British justice system feel so very dark and sinister to me. And then, a terrible thought occurred to me. What if some wicked criminal was planning to do the same thing now? Because from the appearance of the crime scene, it looked exactly as though Gina had shot Mr. Windibank. Even though I was sure she would have never done such a thing.
You were worried that the true culprit would try to frame her for the crime.
That's right. But then I realized it would be very difficult for anyone to give false testimony in this case.
What do you mean?
Well, the crime appeared to have happened behind the door of a locked room. For someone to claim falsely to have witnessed it, there would have been a way to see beyond the door.
Ah. Which, a peephole would be the very thing.
Only, the peephole I'd made wasn't actually there until after the crime had been committed, of course. And the criminal would know that, so it wouldn't make any difference.
But the possibility of a rather ingenious trap was there, was it not? A trap? Is that why she did it?
So, is that why you kept it a secret, Susie?
You never mentioned that you made the peephole to anyone, not even the police. I know, and I knew at the time what I was doing was wrong, a criminal offense even. That's why I decided to confide in Mr. Sholmes. If Mr. Naruto was completely backed to a corner with no other possible means of escape, the truth about the peephole could save him. That was my plan.
She really does think of everything. But then, why didn't you just tell me everything before the trial began? My dear fellow, you're not thinking straight. If she had done that, it would have rendered you complicit in the whole escapade. Ah. You could have been disbarred if you had been seen to have knowingly tampered with a crime scene. So Mrs. Sato decided to shoulder the burden of responsibility alone. For your sake, and Miss Lestrade's. Mr. Sato.
The truth is, when it happened, I did it because I'd lost a little of my faith in the law.
Oh.
I was worried that the right person wouldn't be convicted of the crime. But the moment I allowed myself to think that, is the moment I lost my right to call myself a judicial assistant.
What you did isn't comparable to what he did. Graydon is the one who lied in the witness stand, using that peephole as a way to implicate Gina. And besides, if the peephole inconsistency hadn't existed, I'm not at all sure that she would have been acquitted in the end. Mrs. Sato, what you did saved Gina's life.
Well, with your kind words, Mr. Naruto. You saved me too from my regrets.
Well, we must all be thankful that Mr. Strawley's freedom has been assured. Yeah, exactly. Although, some of the loose ends in that trial will continue to play on my mind, I'm sure.
But the revelation of the music box disc contained in secret messages, Miss Naruhodo. What a triumph to work that out. I'm full of admiration.
Well, actually, that argument wasn't quite as compelling as I thought it was.
Oh, it wasn't?
There was a communications officer among the jury members, see, a telegraph operator, and she said that the majority of the sounds on the disc were just meaningless tones. As one would expect, after all, we all talking about some secret government communications. No doubt they were written in cipher to avoid being readily understood should they have been intercepted. In cipher? I see. So then we can never have hoped to understand what the message said anyways. Nonsense, my dear fellow. It's quite a zero-height problem, I assure you. Eh? So... Key. Huh? What?
Well, that can't be a real word, can it? How funny. Wait, Iris, what did you say? Oh, I said asogi. Does that word mean something to you?
Mean something? Asogi was the name of my best friend.
What? But how? How do you know that name, Iris? I wrote it down during the trial before, when the message was playing on the music box.
She described it on the fly. She really is a genius.
I thought the message wouldn't be written out in plain Morse code, so I tried various ways to interpret it. But whatever I tried, words just didn't seem to make any sense. That is, in English at least. Oh. It suddenly occurred to me, you see, there's more than one Morse code, not just English variety. Various countries around the world have altered and added to Morse code to use it in their own language.
I don't believe it. Are you saying...
That's right. I've only actually seen a chart of Japanese Morse code once before. But I think it's based on the Iroha pangram, isn't it?
And you mean to say that in Japanese Morse code, the message says asogi?
Yes, I think so. Sorry, but I don't remember all the Japanese Morse code. Iris, would you let me see that?
Mr. Sato, do you know it? Do you know Japanese Morse code?
Yes, I spent some time studying it. Because I'm quite sure Morse code will become ever more important for international communications.
Then might I recommend, my dear madam, that you focus your efforts on the English version?
Be that as it may. Iris, show me the message, please. Of course. But what can this possibly mean?
Whatever it is in that long sequence of supposedly meaningless dots and dashes, it's made the color drain from Susasan's face.
There's no doubt that this message is written in Japanese Morse code.
So the British Empire has been using Japanese for its secret communications.
I don't understand the reason why, but... the message appears to be a list of 4 people's names.
4 names?
The first is Kei Asogi.
Kasuma Asogi. Why? Why was his name on that disc?
The second is A. Shin.
No clue. Shin? I don't recognize that name.
The third is T.
Gregson. Gregson? Oh. Tobias Gregson. Ah, it would seem Tobias Gregson is the third man on the list. And what's his name doing in the secret government communication as well?
And the last name...
What's the matter, Mr. Sato?
It's just so strange. So unexpected. Oh, what is it, Susie? Don't keep us in suspense. The last name is J. Wilson.
Dr. John H. Wilson.
What?
Wilson?
John H. Wilson? You mean Daddy?
Sholmes?
It says only J. Wilson, so I'm afraid I can't be sure. Then, after the 4 names, it reads, if I translate from Japanese, that is all 4. And that's the end of the message. Or rather, the end of what you noted down, Iris. I just can't believe it. Who would ever have thought that those discs contain Japanese Morse code? Not to mention a strange list of some disturbingly familiar names. The only one we don't know is Asian. It would appear that this particular message is a communication of some kind between Great Britain and the Empire of Japan.
So, Dad could be in Japan then. Where Susie and Bruno came from.
Oh, well,
No, it's not very likely, really, is it? I mean, there are thousands of people with the surname Wilson, and there must be lots of J's among them.
Professor John H. Wilson, visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. But we can't tell Iris about that now. We just can't. This is so strange. Somehow, in solving the case of Mr. Windibank's murder today, I feel like I've rolled back a boulder at the mouth of a very dark cave. I do wonder if perhaps it's a dark cave that we shouldn't go back wandering inside. Oh dear. The ship's going to set sail soon. Yeah, seems so. I'll sail on that steamship first to the port of Dunkirk in France. Then I'll change onto a larger passenger vessel bound for Japan.
You're really going then, Susie?
We wish you a safe passage, Miss Susato. Thank you so much. I wish all of you the very best. Miss Susato, I had hoped you would always... I'd hoped to have you always at my side to guide me and support me. Mr. Naruhodo, please, come back soon. As far as I'm concerned, you really are the very best judicial assistant in the world. I'm quite sure. I'll be back before you know it.
Really, Susie?
Oh, now don't forget, Iris. I made you a promise I've yet to fulfill.
A promise?
About your manuscript. Oh yeah, the Hound of the Baskervilles.
I'll be waiting for you then, Susie. Promise is a promise.
Definitely, Iris. Mr. Naruhodo. Yeah? Do you remember the first time we met? Yeah, of course. When they asked us Buria when I was dragged out from that wardrobe still half asleep. If I remember rightly, he threw me halfway across the cabin with a solid takedown.
You know very well I'm talking about after that.
It's strange, but being thrown together as we were in that case, I somehow felt straight away that you were the perfect person to continue Kazuma-sama's great legacy. Mrs. Sato. And my instincts were right. I really want to believe. No, I'm sure of that. I'll be back soon. Farewell until then. Bye. Cutscene.
Somehow we seem to have come to the end of the adventures of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Or the first volume, at least.
The cat.
Looking back now, it feels as though fate has led me on this journey.
Bye. Why is everyone else frozen in time? Like, literally.
Fate led me to becoming a lawyer, to traveling halfway around the world, to meeting the great detective.
Bye.
I'm sure there'll be trials and tribulations ahead. Of course there will. But whatever happens, I know I'll be able to turn my fortunes around.
Oh, there he is.
After all, I have the greatest friends in the world on my side.
Sholmes is now really the time to be playing in potentially fitting music.
Well, I think that is... Ah, yes, Miss Naruhodo. Yeah, Mr. Jones? I have some rather awkward news. The railway company has decided to sue over the Special Express train, apparently. Huh?
It caused such a commotion on the line, all the other trains had to wait at stations.
But really, we would never have made it to Dover in that time otherwise. Anyway, I explained everything, and how it was all your fault. What? Huh? Charles! I believe a formal complaint should be delivered to your office tomorrow. But not to worry, my dear fellow, according to Mr. Sato.
You love defending yourself in court.
Huh? Huh? Huh?
It's alright, I'm perfectly happy to testify. He really didn't look the sort of man who'd do something so outrageous. See?
Mr. Sholmes? Yes? A word, if you don't mind. Why, certainly. Any word you like. Bellow it out, my dear fellow.
Oh yes, I love Bruno's words, and I know just the one he'll use here.
Then, I really must say...
Objection!
Why am I always the one in trouble here? I'ma skip that. Just slam. Slam to black. Well. Hello. Hi. How are you live? Bye. Maybe I should stay and look at this for a bit at least. Nah, sorry. I'll watch the credits when we actually beat the second game. But because this is technically not the end of the playthrough yet. But this is just the end of the first game. But we're still going to be continuing on with, I believe it's called Resolve. So yeah, I guess for now that'll be it. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Look at water. But yeah, we will hopefully tomorrow, if circumstances permit. Tomorrow I will continue. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and see y'all later. Also, I hope to fix my internet stuff, but that's another good story. See ya!